The Cessna pilot, Marx Jones, served 6 months in jail for that stunt. He's with me right now, along with the All Black first five that day, Doug Rollerson. Doug, for you first, you're on the ground. Were you aware of any protest? I mean, were you conscious of that during the game?
Originally not, but you know, at one stage I went to take a 22 dropout, or 25 in those days, and a couple of bags of flour fell around me, and I had to stand back and have a second take, and from then on we were pretty aware of it, yeah.
I mean, the flour came from you.
And my bombardier sitting in the back.
Did you ever, I mean, because the criticisms were someone could have been hurt and you were flying so low.
Well, we pulled it off without anybody being hurt. The only thing that really hurt was the rugger bugger's feelings. So, and we did intend to try and stop the game, but it's probably just as fortunate that we didn't.
I mean, it was a pretty dramatic thing to do, wasn't it? I mean, you did 6 months inside for this.
Yeah, well, people don't sort of realise that a lot of those players in the South African team were members of the Broederbund, which is the white supremacist mob and the international condemnation of the whole tour. And it doesn't take much imagination. Most of those players are also in the South African forces, and they'd obviously been involved with things that we were protesting about.
So up there you were thinking about that. Down on the park, you just want to beat the box.
Absolutely, but you know, before the tour, you know, we were all asked to think about it, and the primary thing was to get them over here, show them that we lived in a multiracial society in relative harmony, and make sure that they didn't sit at home telling each other, you know, how right they were, and of course, primarily beat them. And on this day, we're talking about the flour distracted the All Blacks perhaps and refocused the Springboks. So I think at one stage we were sort of getting on top of them when Gary got hit in the side of the head. And it stunned him. To be fair, it didn't kill him, but it stunned him. If it hit me, it probably would have killed me. But it defocused us and focused them.
How did the Springboks react?
Well, they sort of got together very tight, I think, if you ever see it again. And Leonard Clausen come over and he said straight up, he just said, do you not have an air force in this country? And that was his attitude. So, you know, that really galvanised them into action, yeah.
Did you expect they were going to try and take some action to get you out of the sky?
Well, they had several helicopters up there tailing us around for the 2 hours. But I thought it was pretty unlikely they'd try anything as long as they stayed, you know, over the city. So, yeah, apparently the Air Force did it. Were involved in having a look at getting us out of the air, but they didn't, obviously.
But no regret. I mean, you were a young kid, and you went to jail. I mean, that was the risk you took by doing that. You must have known that.
Yeah, but there'd been a big build-up to it, and I'm as mad on my rugby as anybody. I go up every Friday night to the pub and watch my rugby, and used to play it in first 15, but there were other issues, and it outgrew the rugby by miles for me.
Now, you two had never met before tonight, have you?
No.
I mean, 25 years ago, you would have been pretty hostile, I'd imagine.
Well, I didn't really think too much about them, you know, like it was, we were doing a job, really, and, you know, now I look back on it, I think it was a little bit silly, but, you know, I think that there are people that are perennial protesters, and that tour, say it was 50-50 by the end of it, you know, half of them were anti the tour because of the disruption. And there were some genuine protesters, but some were just fighting the cops too.
So 25 years later, you still believe the tour should have gone ahead?
Oh, absolutely. You know, especially because we beat them. If we'd have lost, it might have been different. But...
And 25 years reflection hasn't changed your view?
Not at all.
Thanks a lot. Now, a lot has changed, though, since 1981. South Africa turned its back on apartheid in the early 90s. Nelson Mandela was released from prison, and the Springboks and the All Blacks played their next official test in 1992. It's quite a contrast to the wars that raged in the winter of 81. Our thanks to the good folk, Te Poho o Rauri Marae here in Gisborne, for the use of their beautiful marae. Until tomorrow, when we're back in Auckland, that's New Zealand Close.